Welcome, everybody, to Mom Street USA. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama, and I am joined for this hub episode by our good friends Duck and Jess, aka Beanie Duck. And today's topic is pin trading 101. So, we haven't really talked a ton about pin trading on Mom Street. We talked a little bit about it on our Disney Collections for Kids episode a few months back, but we haven't really tackled the topic of pin trading. So, that is today's topic. We're hoping to give you a little bit of background, talk a little bit about what it is, how it works, what to do, all those kind of basics. So, Duck and Jess, before we hop in, how are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. I'm, like you said, I'm chomping at the bit to get after this. I'm so excited.
I love it. Yes. So let's go ahead and hop in so we don't have to wait any further to impart our knowledge on our lovely Mom Street listeners here. So let's talk about pin trading.
All right. So, pin trading. Pin trading is, as to me, somebody in this culture, and I think a lot of people who are just aware of it in general, like, is as synonymous with Disney parks as Mickey Mouse is, right? Like, it is like truly integral to the history of Disney parks and activities to be done within the park. So throughout today, I hope we're going to touch on some of the basics, give you a little bit of insight into, I think you said it earlier, Jackie. What is pin trading? How did this get started? Some basic information for you to know as a starter into this world, and just some general 101 information about it. So it's expensive, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to
Yes.
be, right? Like
Right,
you can make this, you can let it get out of control like we did, or like you can keep it a very manageable, respectable lanyards
Yep.
full of pins, right? Like you can be
Exactly.
as normal or as extreme about it as you want. And that's the fun thing about this hobby, right? Like you can collect a huge variety of different things, or you can focus on one character or one movie, or maybe there's like a particular line that releases that you really like a theme. So there's lots and lots to see and enjoy within the hobby. So I think that's it. I think let's talk about it.
Yeah. So let's start with the question: what is pin trading?
Yes, Jess, what is pin trading?
I'm
It's
so
funny you should
glad you're going to
ask.
answer that.
So Disney pin trading is buying and trading either with cast members or with guests at the parks, collectible pins that feature Disney characters, Disney parks attractions, different icons of the parks and Disney as a whole, and other different elements of just the Disney brand. So trading most commonly takes place within the Disney parks, and Disney also puts on a yearly pin event. I believe they do them on both coasts, but definitely Orlando does one every year, where it's a separate ticketed event. Usually takes place like near in the Epcot area.
It can be in the Epcot area. It's also taken place in Contemporary before. So it just kind of
Wherever has like a big event space in the
Yeah.
parks, they'll host it in there. And there's special, limited edition pins that kind of follow whatever the theme of that year's event is. They show previews of upcoming pins and things like that at those events. And you can also do pin trading at those events, obviously, as well.
No, you're actually explicitly not allowed to say
Can you imagine if they did that?
people
Nope.
would explode.
Yeah. Yep.
There's also a lot of local events where people do pin trading. A big pin group in this area is the Central Jersey Pin Trading Group.
Just quick shout out to them. They're all amazing. They have helped me source many pieces in my collection. They're all
Love that.
very kind. There's lots and lots of local groups. So just like
Yeah,
search
they're
up
all over.
your area plus Disney pin trading. Facebook will come up. Ours does like a little convention, like
Nice.
4 or 5 times a year. Like
Yeah.
every couple of months, everybody gets together. They just like rent out a room in like a Marriott somewhere in Jersey, and everybody goes and they pin trade. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen
So
it in
fun.
other areas. I follow YouTubers that live in like Canada and they go to pin events there. So like literally all over wherever there is like a Disney culture, there will be pin trading events probably happening. Also online groups are really big. I'm in a couple of those and I've done, pin trading with people all over the country and all over the world. So there's, online groups as well that you can use to pin trade. So lots of different avenues to do it, but the parks is obviously the main spot. So when you're trading in the parks or at different events, only official Disney pins can be traded. We'll get into non-official Disney pins in a second. But official Disney pins include pins purchased from the parks, but also stores like Box Lunch, Hot Topic, and Walmarts sell them. Sometimes people have found them all over the place. I've seen people get them at like Hobby Lobby and stuff. So like all kinds of places do sell like officially licensed Disney pins. So those are the only ones though that can be traded in the parks. There is also the concept of fantasy pins. So we have one right here to show. So
Yes.
these
For the visual folks, I know that not every I know there's some people listening to this, but for the visual folks,
so
we have a
watching.
quick example.
So fantasy pins are fan-made pins that feature Disney characters. Oftentimes they feature like mashups of a couple of different, Disney properties, or like this pin which combined Disney and Marvel with the Loki, Gator and Peter Pan. So those pins typically people will make and sell on like Etsy shops and things like that. So these are not official Disney pins, so they cannot be traded in the parks. But again, you might find at like those online communities or maybe in pin events where like people have specifically fantasy pins for trade. But you can really only trade fantasy pins for other fantasy pins, not for official Disney pins, at least in the parks.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So, for those of you who cannot see what we just showed, Jess explained it a little bit, but it is a pin featuring the alligator Loki from that TV show, also
Loki,
along,
yeah.
yes, with a Peter Pan character kind of, elbow leaning on him. So, that is the fantasy pin that Duck showed on our video here. So yes, like Jess mentioned, if you've got fantasy pins and want to trade someone else for another fantasy pin, that is totally fine. I don't necessarily anticipate that you find those much in the parks. That's more of kind of like those pin trading events that you would see that type of thing at.
Yeah. And there is like a very strong rule in the pin trading community that like it's totally okay for you to have fantasy pins, for you to add them to your collection.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of really great, interesting, cool concepts that people can come up with, but you need to make it clear that what you are selling or trading is a fantasy pin and it's not an official Disney pin. And most of the time people don't care because they just want it because it's
Right, it's
cool.
cool.
But there is a strong culture of just making sure that you are like clearly representing exactly what it is and that it's not an official Disney pin.
Yeah. And that goes for any pin that you're trading, right? Like if you know, and we'll get into real pins, scrappers, that kind of stuff, but like you always just want to be upfront, be a kind human when it comes to trading. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But let's just do a brief history because I feel like we can't really talk about pin trading without talking about why in the world we do it. Like, why is it even a thing? Where did it come from? So the very first Disney pin was actually released all the way back in 1930. And it was a pin that was released in honor of the Mickey Mouse Club television show that was on. So thought that was pretty cool. But pins have always been around as souvenirs in the Disney parks from the very beginning. Trading has not always been around from the very beginning, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But you can trace back to finding these pins that were for sale as souvenirs all the way back to the beginnings of Disneyland. So they've definitely been in the Disney parks culture for as long as the Disney parks have been around.
And I will just say, officially sanctioned Disney pin trading has not been around since the beginning of pin.
Very
People
true.
have ever since pins became a thing, people have been trading them, right? Like all the way back to I don't know when they were created, the 1800s or something. Like
Who knows?
something like that.
Kate probably knows. Let's be real.
I was
Kate
gonna say,
probably knows.
of if I had to tag a specific friend, it would be Kate for her to just know the history of pin badges off the top of her head. So I do know that I do know that the concept of pin trading goes back at least as far as I think it was the 1898, something like that, Olympics, like the late 1800s. And I'll talk a little bit about like how that influenced Disney in just a hot second. Did you want to mention anything else about souvenirs before I launch into my little history lesson?
No, let's hear about pin
Sweet.
trading and the history of that aspect.
So the true Disney, like quote unquote sanctioned Disney pin trading starts with the Millennium Celebration, right? It starts in 1999. If y'all remember the fun little thing, the little magic wand over to Epcot Ball, right? Lots of
It was
things.
so cool.
It was so cool. I have so many photos in front of that thing as a small child. It's unbelievable. I loved it. My mom loved it. She took every angle and photo possible.
I love
We
that.
have at least 3 disposable cameras worth of just photos of the Epcot Ball. And I'm like, that fully checks out.
That's where you get your luck.
And that explains so much.
Mhm. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Go, Debbie, go. Take those photos. Pass that love of the Epcot ball on to your child. So, so it starts in 99. There are some possibly apocryphal stories about what influenced it to start then. There is a convention called the Odyssey of the Mind that takes place, I believe it's the previous year, in Epcot, in which it's like an international, kind of like a Mensa situation, right? Like where all kinds of smart people from all over the world come and they meet in Epcot. And as a result, they bring different badges from all over the world and they trade them with each other. So the story that gets referenced and then gets referenced again and then gets referenced again, and no one can really find the true origin, is that this, Odyssey of the Mind event took place. People saw them trading. But the other probable influence for this, and even probably influenced this Odyssey of the Mind convention, is the trading of pins at the Olympic Village. So I think this got a lot of attention the last Olympic Games too.
Yeah.
But it's been around basically ever since like modern Olympics, like in the late 1800s when we could start making these like metal forged pins essentially. So at the Olympics, different countries send their delegates with pins representing their home country in some way, right? Sometimes it's just a flag, sometimes it's like a national animal, sometimes it's a full design. It very much depends like what the theme of that year is, right? Sometimes they'll get nationally recognized artists involved. It's a pretty big thing. And so there is trading as like a sign of cooperation and friendship at the Olympic Games between the delegates. And of course, like some are very sought after because there are some countries that don't have a lot of delegates that are sent, a lot of athletes, so whatever it may be. But some of them are just cool designs, some of them are limited. So Olympic Games is like a very big hub for pin trading, and sort of that's where it filters into like the cultural zeitgeist at large. So it's probably a combination of the two is what inspires the quote unquote official Disney pin trading in 99. And then it catches like wildfire because everyone's like, I also want to trade official Disney pins. And Disney's like, this seems like a great business opportunity. So what?
And how right they were.
Oh yeah. The shameful amount of money that we have spent on pins proves that that was a correct hypothesis.
Yep.
So within a year, it travels over to Disneyland, and then it's at every Disney park across the world now. It is a huge part of Disney. I mean, Walt Disney World, I think, is the biggest one, right? That's where you'll see the most pin boards, and it's the most trader friendly. But it is quite literally in every Disney park across the world, you'll find people pin trading.
Paris has a very big pin, like, kind of culture and
Yeah,
community.
they do. I was actually very surprised.
Their
to learn
pins are
that.
beautiful.
They're, oh my
Yeah,
God, the pins,
amazing.
the Disneyland Paris pins. I encourage everybody, if you're listening to this in the car, please pull over and look this up. Use your phone while driving. I absolutely love the Disneyland Paris pins. They are beautiful. They're like small works of art on a pin. They're incredible, all of them. They
Yeah.
have a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll hear us talk about this here in a little bit because we'll talk about kind of where in the parks to trade. But do keep in mind that some of the parks are a little bit more strict about the types of pins that they will allow for trades. So I just want to get that out of the gate kind of information up front. Places like Disneyland Paris are very, very strict about what types of pins they will allow. So you will find their cast members are holding some of that to a higher standard. You'll also find that currently in the year that we are recording this in 2025, they are considering this the 25th anniversary of pin trading. So the amount of boards that you can find across the parks has skyrocketed because of that. So you'll find so many more boards in Disney World and Disneyland, especially for that reason. But yeah, definitely all of the parks, and it does ebb and flow. Some of the parks do more trading than some of the other ones. So, but it is definitely, it does exist in all of the Disney parks across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also kind of depends on time of year. Like we've gone at various times of year and went to go look for a pin board that was there in, late, like during Jersey week in November. We know it's always there. And then we went during, spring or something and it just was never there. Right. So like
Yeah.
what's available kind of can fluctuate. And
COVID also impacted it a lot. Like, it took a
Yes.
while for it to kind of come back in full force,
Yeah.
after the pandemic, unfortunately. But now I think it is, especially with the 25th anniversary, like, it is back. But it took a while. Some of those pin boards were in action for the
We're so back, baby. Nailed it.
So, Duck, tell us, how does the trading element of this work?
So, it is as simple as you see a pin that you like and you politely ask, "Would you like to trade?" Right? It seems like I think a lot of people get daunted, it's a daunting prospect to just sort of like break out of that comfort zone and just ask somebody or a cast member to trade, but it truly is as simple as that, right? You see something, you say, "Hey, would you like to trade? Would you like to see the pins I have available?" And that's it. If you're trading with cast members, there are a ton, like Jackie just said, there's boards that are set up. Some of them are like themed. Like I think you were saying before, there's like some cute sea creature themed ones by Nemo.
Yeah, my very first trade that I ever did in the parks, I was telling this story right before we hopped on, but I'm happy to tell it again. It was super early in the morning at Animal Kingdom, and I was taking the outside path to go from like the Everest area down towards what is currently the remnants of Dinoland USA that are being changed over. But I walked by the Nemo building, and the shows had not started for the day, but they had a line of cast members out, and they all had little sea creature themed pin boards. So they just look like kind of like cork boards if you're not familiar with them. A lot of them are Mickey Mouse head shaped. Some of them are other shapes. There's some that's kind of the general thing you will find with pin boards. There's lots of other fun pin boards, like in the Brown Derby restaurant at Hollywood Studios. You can find a bowler hat that they do pin trading on. There are traffic cones out in some of the parking lots that you can do pin trading at. But generally speaking, it's a board of some kind. But these ones were, yeah, they were shaped like there was like a jellyfish and an octopus and some other sea creatures that they had pins on, which is super fun when you see it. You're like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. So yes, they definitely have some themed ones out there that do exist.
Yes. So, and I love that. I just think it's really fun. I think the bowler hat is really fun in Brown Derby. But yeah, so generally if you're trading with a cast member, you'll see it on a board or other adjacent substance. You'll just see the pins just in the board itself. But also cast members have, it's usually on their hip. It's usually just like a small, like, 5x5 piece of felt that they have a couple of pins pinned to, and those are available for trade. We actually have been told specifically by cast members that those pins get given to them for trade. They are not their personal collection. So if you see a really good one, you do not have to feel bad. You are not like taking it from the cast member. You are not like stealing their personal pin collection. That is given to them by management for trade. So that is like all of that is 100% open and up for trading. So that covers where you'll find it, trading with a cast member. But if you are trading with a fellow guest, there's a number of ways that people might choose to display the pins. Most commonly, it's a lanyard, right? That's usually what we'll wear. We'll have a lanyard with a coat, usually like 4 or 5 pins on it for what where is available to trade. Some people will have like display backpacks. So they'll just have, like a crossbody or something with like a clear window and some kind of little like foam piece in there that they've stuck their pins to. So sometimes those are just for display. Sometimes people actually want to trade those. So again, it's just as simple as like going up and asking politely, "Would you like to pin trade?" Um, there are also, the other thing I want to note is that some parks have specific locations that are designated as pin trading locations, right? So while you may come across like a store that has a pin board, it may or may not be there, but what will generally always be there are these pin locations. So that includes in Epcot, it's like a little, I don't want to call it a shack. It's like a little covered building between Connections and Club Cool.
Yeah, it's like the breezeway, the walkway through. So if you go past Connections and you hang a left to go to that side, they've got all those like picnic table-esque kind of tables outside, and they will set up shop. Especially if you're there on weekends, you will find people just all of those tables will be full, and they've got just books and books and books of pins to trade.
Yes, and actually what I was describing before with the shack, that was when we went during COVID. They had relocated it temporarily. It was like one of those pin trading little like outpost stores. That's what I was thinking of. But you're
Gotcha.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
They have since moved it back.
Yeah, because they used to be towards the front of Epcot, but like within the last several months, they relocated them because I think with it being the 25th anniversary, pin trading again, this, starting really like the spring of this year has been super, super popular. So it was becoming a walkway issue where they were meeting outside of one of the little gift shops underneath Spaceship Earth, and it became an issue where there was not enough walkway room. So Disney just politely asked them, like, "Hey, let's relocate over here where the walkway is 4 times wider, to give lots of space for that." So yes, that's where you can find them. And it was funny. We were eating on my last trip when I went with my family around Memorial Day. We were eating inside of Connections right on that side, and we were like watching all of the pin traders through the big windows and like watching everyone interact. My kids were like, "What kind of pins got out there?" And I was like, "Okay, we'll go look at them." Like, because you're always also welcome to like just go take a look and see what people have, too. But they're like, "We'll go look at them, but you got to eat first."
That's a totally fair rule. Jess has to say the same thing to me. I have to eat and
Finish
drink
your
water
dinner first.
That's it.
Hydrate.
That's it.
Then we can do pins.
Take 3 more bites and a simple water, and then we can go pin trade, okay? Yes, okay.
So true. So true.
Oh, goodness. For other pin trading spots, there is one in Hollywood Studios. It is inside Sid's. It is at the entrance to the left. And there are other places, again, like it kind of shifts. So if you're not sure, ask a cast member if there's like an official setup location, or just look for the very excited people with pin folios. Like it's very easy to spot where they usually are. And sometimes it's like an unofficial meetup, right? Like could just be locals getting together to pin trade. We saw that one time when we were outside of Casey's, like we just had sat down to go, grab some corn dog nuggets or whatever. And there just happened to be like a little local meetup of like, I don't know, it was probably like 10 people pin trading. It was just like really fun and cool to see. It was like slightly before we were as obsessed with pin trading as we were. So like, just ask and keep your eyes peeled. You'll see plenty of people pin trading.
Yeah. And that being said, too, you can find a lot of like, I think Jess had mentioned earlier, like Facebook groups or different things for pin trading. So not only like local to wherever you are, but also like down in the parks too. So keeping an eye out on those. If you're like wanting to find people to meet up with, keeping an eye on those Facebook groups is always a good idea.
Absolutely. All right. So now that we kind of know how to pin trade, where do you get pins to trade? So you can purchase them directly from the Disney parks. There are pins in every single gift shop all over Disney property. So you can definitely buy them there. But there are other retailers that sell licensed pins. So I kind of mentioned it before, Hot Topic, Box Lunch, places like Walmart. And then there are different types of pins within that. So Disney does sell like kind of pin trading starter kits that will usually come with a lanyard and then like 4 to 5 pins around like a different theme. So maybe it's like princesses or Nightmare Before Christmas or Toy Story, Stitch or Snip. There. Basically a lot of the more like popular collections of pins that people collect. So kind of a good way to get started and then have, some pins to trade with cast members or with other guests. There are other retailers online that have good reputations that you can buy from. They'll sell, pin bundles, but they'll also, sell individual pins and different things like that. So Go Pin Pro is an example. We were talking about them before we started recording. They sell a lot of like collections of like pins and like the accessory boards for like $60 you get like 10 pins with the board. Be sure that the description though guarantees that it is authentic Disney pins. You can also go again to the local pin trading events like we've talked about. Pin traders are super friendly and they're always just looking to see people come into the hobby and get people started with collecting, so especially for like kiddos and stuff.
Yeah, I know I've given, like, a kid didn't have anything to trade me, and I just gave him, like, 3 Stitch pins because who cares, right? Like, I would rather have a kiddo who would enjoy it and, like, be interested in the hobby than, like, what do I need another 3 pins for? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm far more interested, and I think this is the general attitude of most people in the Disney pin trading community, right? Like, I think everyone's just more interested in people being happy and enjoying the hobby than like, the perfect trade, right? Like I've even traded with people when like they really wanted something that I had, and like even if they didn't have something that I particularly wanted, I'm like, this clearly means something to you, right? Like maybe Tigger's your favorite Disney character, or like you're trading it for your mom who couldn't come on this trip, or like it reminds you of your dad who's passed, like whatever it is. Like I think we and pretty much everybody in like the like pin trading community feels the same way of like, yeah man, I'll trade you this pin, I don't care if you don't have anything that I want, this means something to you and that means something to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I had an instance where I was meeting up with a friend at the kind of entrance area to Animal Kingdom, and we were standing there chatting, and her husband went, over to look at the pin board and came back and ran over. He's like, "I need a pin." She was like, "Okay." So, she handed him one, and he came back and he found the last of a set that their son was looking to complete. And he had seen it was on the board, and he was like, "I got to make sure that I go get it for him," so those types of
Mhm.
things. Now you will also find people that maybe don't think that way,
Of course.
unfortunately.
Of
You're always going to have that too, so just be aware of those types of things as well and just keep an eye out. But yeah, I definitely think that the whole purpose is to enjoy the collection and enjoy the hunt a little bit. So the more that you can kind of feed into that, I think the better time you're gonna have with pin collecting as a whole.
Absolutely.
Don't feed into it, because then you turn into me neurotically running around Epcot trying to finish that. There was a collection that was like all of the old school Epcot logos,
Mhm.
and those are like unfortunately very commonly faked. Not that I super care about that. I wound up with like 14 of the Living with the Land looking ones, and they're like all fake, and I do not care. You know what I mean? Like at one
I think
point,
you completed that collection like 5 times over. And
because
Give me them all.
I keep trading in hopes that like I will eventually be able to have one full real collection. I'm not quite there, but like I will get there eventually, right?
It's
So like
gonna happen.
and like that's part of the fun of the hunt, right? Like we'll talk about scrappers and fake ones later, and everybody feels differently about it. It doesn't particularly bother me. It's not the end all be all, but some people feel differently, and that's okay. So
Right.
100% it is about the hunt, and it is the fun and the joy of finding like that collection completer or whatever, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And while we're talking about kind of where to get pins, Zach in our live chat here as we're recording did ask about eBay. I think you're really some of those eBay, whatnot, Mercari, any of those resale sites, you got to be really careful. Now, if you don't care whether it's authentic or not, you just like the design of the pin, like Duck was mentioning earlier, go for it if you think it's a good price.
Mhm.
But you're really rolling the dice on even some of those, live whatnot sales and stuff. People may think that they have authentic pins and they're really not, or people may just know that they're not authentic and just claim they are anyway. Again, the world is a crazy place. You never really know online. So in-person events are really your best bet if you're looking to trade, and buying things authentically in box and package from Disney is, or one of these other retailers that we mentioned is your best way to kind of get started.
Yeah, I have a note in here that's like never buy the 1,000 pins for $3, because not a one of them are real, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
and if that does not bother you for your collection, that's okay.
Right.
But it is, and we'll talk more about pin etiquette later, but it is not appropriate pin etiquette to knowingly buy a fake pin and to put it into circulation,
Mhm.
right? If you don't care for your collection, that's totally cool. Like I have a bunch of fake ones that I don't care about because they just sit on my pin board and it doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
But I would never knowingly put back into circulation fake pins.
Mhm.
And that's just like good collection etiquette at large, right? No matter
Yeah.
what it is. If you know you have a fake, it's not the right thing to do to put it back out in circulation. So please, please, please do not buy those like, here's 50,000 Disney pins for $8, right? Like
Right.
they're always
They're
a
definitely
scam.
not real.
They're not real. Like and you're just gonna get like a bad quality product, and they're fake,
Right.
and that's not fair to put back out into the collection. So that's my soapbox moment for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, we'll talk more about scrappers here in a minute, but where else, Jess, can we find the real pins that we want to actually have?
Yes, the not fake ones, the not
Yes.
thousand $50.
Right. Some other sites to find authentic tradable Disney pins would be Disney Pins blog. He has quite the variety of pins. He even has like exclusive pins to like his shop that he's partnered with other, to make. But he does, have a variety of pins, sometimes older pins, and then Disney Pins for You is also another site. They run sales all the time, but they have a pretty wide variety of pins as well. So those are good places. We've purchased from both of them many times. Times. Yeah, so if you're looking for pins, especially I feel like Disney Pins for You is good if you want like to get a bunch to trade.
Yeah.
Because they are pretty reasonably priced, but they all that we have gotten have been authentic pins.
I would recommend if you're looking for um something that's older, that's like a collection completer maybe, Disney Pins blog is a good bet. And then if you're looking for like collection fillers, right? You're like, I don't really have anything of this character, or I'm looking for something to trade. Disney Pins for You is good. And if you are looking, Disney Pins for You is also great for a database, right? Like I have a bunch of pins here that like I had gotten along the way. I purchased them, but I didn't know anything about them, or like I got them off of a board. And they have a great, great, great database. So they are super good because even if they don't have it in stock, they have some information on it. So it's like a good place to find out more about your pin.
Yeah, that's helpful. And that's Disney Pins, the number 4
Yes.
and the letter U.
The letter U,
So
Yes.
all kind of one, screen name type, one word altogether. So Disney Pins, the number 4, the letter U. And then Disney Pins blog is just your normal normal spelling.
Also want to shout out his YouTube channel if you're like looking to get into pins and pin trading. He posts like Disney pin news and about like events and things like that are happening in the park. So if you're like looking to get into it but not really sure where to go, that's like a good starting point. He's got a lot of good
Yeah,
ideas
and we
for
can definitely
artists too about
link
stuff.
Yeah, we can definitely link his YouTube in our show description. So if you're listening to this later, take a look at that. If you're like, "Ooh, that sounds interesting," or "I want to take a look," I will be sure to put his channel in our description.
He also has a podcast that he puts
Okay.
out. It's like a 5-minute just on the topic of podcasts for no reason at all as you're listening.
I wonder why.
So unrelated to the current activity. He has a podcast that he puts out a couple days a week. That's just like it's just quick 5-minute news updates as soon as anything happens. Like he'll
Nice.
kind of concatenate a couple days worth of news together. Just sort of like upcoming releases or pin news or something like that. So I totally second what Jess said. He's a great resource. I really have enjoyed and appreciated his content over the years.
Excellent. Love that.
And then the last note on where to get Disney pins is Disney stores or Disney outlets if you're lucky enough to still have one. I don't think there is a single Disney store in the state of New Jersey anymore. But we all know Jackie has one out there.
No, I'm very lucky, and I don't like to rub it in, but I am very lucky that I
I see
can.
your videos
And now
and I'm like,
I
so jealous.
know. I was just there today. Honestly, I went today because I wanted to see if they had any pins that I could like use for an example of like, hey, this is what my outlet has right now. They didn't have any great ones. They had some that were full price, but they didn't have any clearance pins. But I can find from time to time, and it ebbs and flows because the stock of my Disney store kind of comes in and out. There is one in Pennsylvania that's probably a few hours away from you,
Yeah,
where
it's not
you
too
guys
far.
are, but like I know I was able to find the entire Stitch Eats collection that they did. So like this pin, this is an angel pin where Angel's holding a churro, was part of a set that I got on clearance there. So I got both of my kiddos one of those sets to like help start their collecting and their trading, as like, hey, I know these pins are cheap in comparison, and you may or may not want to keep them, and that's totally fine, but like they're cheap pins that we know are authentic pins to get you started. My oldest traded away all of those. My youngest still has that angel one on her little pin set, because she's like, no, I like this one. It's like, okay, that's totally fine, feel free to keep it, but this is what I could find that was on clearance, so it was a cheaper to the to the Disney pin trading.
Yeah, they will definitely get a lot of clearance pins. Sometimes like limited edition pins or like different collections that were released in the park, those pins will kind of make their way to the outlets. So if you have one near you, definitely check there for, like Jackie said, some good cheap pins.
Yeah. So let's talk about carrying and transporting pins, because it's great if you have them at home, but what in the world are you supposed to do with them when you get to the parks, or to one of these events?
Jackie, you hold them in your arms.
Oh.
What else would you do? How else could you possibly transport so many pins?
Let me tell you, because I
Oh my
have
God, I'm so
ideas.
excited to learn.
So the most common way that you will find that people like to display pins or have pins to trade are on lanyards. So that is, again, the most common. You'll see lots of people in the parks that have them. They can get a little heavy and a little bulky depending on how many pins you have on them. So keep that in mind. if you've got a kiddo that maybe only has 6 or 7, probably not a bad idea. If you get too many more than that, it becomes a little cumbersome for kiddos to have and to carry. And like the pins themselves are not super big, but when you get a couple of them and then you get a couple more and then you buy a couple more because they're
They're-
cool, they get real heavy.
Sometimes they are kind of big. I know our
Yeah.
our viewers, or the listeners can't see it, but it's a good like 2 inch by 2 inch square of Mr. Potato Head that I have, and that was a mystery pin that we got in Toy Story Land a couple years ago. And like if you load it up with enough of these, right? Like all it takes is 3 of these, and suddenly it's very heavy, especially for a kiddo.
Yes. So consider your kiddo's tolerance to be able to hold that. Also, like if it's really hot out, they may not want to have the lanyard stick into their neck as you're walking around. So just consider that. But there are some of these really great pin folio boards from gopinpro.com. Not sponsored, just really like their products. They've kind of they're kind of the go-to when it comes to some of this. So what I'm holding here, if you can see me, is kind of like a foamy like board that they have where you can just stick the pins directly into it. And they've got a bunch of different sizes. They've got like tiny little 2-inch sizes. This one I think is like a 5-inch size, maybe, if I remember correctly. But they've got ones that are this size. They've got ones that are like full 8 by 10 size. They've got all sorts of different products on there, but these boards are really nice because they can slide into a park bag really easily. And they even also have some of these that have like a clear plastic Ziploc that'll go over top of it to protect them from weather, things like that. You can also find some of these that will slide into display bags, which is the next thing that I wanted to talk about, because you can find a lot of those where they'll have like a clear front to it. I have this little tiny kind of wristlet one, which if you can see what I'm talking about, it's just a little wristlet that's honestly a little bit even smaller than the pin board that I was just showing you guys. But this is nice because this front little panel right here slides out of that clear plastic, which is really nice. So I will use this for like my traders whenever I go. I am not a huge pin person, but I've got just a handful that I usually try to go to the parks with, typically just to look for things that my kids will like, or look for. I'm very particular about what I collect, and we'll talk about what that is like.
Should be more particular.
But like they've got little wristlets, there are backpacks, there are cross shoulder, bags, there are little fanny pack style. There's all sorts of different bags depending on what your preference is. I do suggest if you're looking for a bag that you're going to be like carrying as your park bag, but also will serve as a pin bag, to have one that has this kind of like plastic front to it. Because you will find, and Disney even has them that they market, like little crossbody bags that don't have that. And it just worries me of like things falling off. If you've got that clear plastic front, it's going to catch it if it does happen to come off or fall off. Now Disney does does sell like locking pin backs in little packages and stuff that you can get too if you're planning to like more permanently display things on like a jean jacket or a bag or a lanyard or whatever kind of deal. They do sell those as well, but I would suggest having some sort of a cover just to help protect your pins and to mostly to keep them from like escaping and falling apart and falling off, never to be seen again. I can't tell you how many pins I've found on the floor in the parks because they just fall off of lanyards or fall out of bags or out of pockets.
Especially since Disney has gone from, here, let me show an example to our viewing audience, and I will describe it to our listeners. So there are ones that are sort of like the classic clasp ones.
Like the little butterfly clasp.
Thank you, butterfly clasp. And so they are going to, where like you have to kind of push in and then pull back to release it, right? So it's like a locking mechanism without being the full locking. What they have gone to for a lot of these, as I throw my pins all around, is this. Exactly. That's exactly right. The rubber stick back one. And that's good because it's like a tight fit. But if you have been like kind of pulling it on and off and whatever, or you stick it wrong, like a little bit weird.
Snagging on something.
Right, exactly. Or you're snagging on something like the butterfly one. Like you cannot pull it off without great force unless you're like pushing on the closure specifically. The plasticky one, the rubber one, just falls right off. So, agreed. If you are interested in keeping those pins long term, you care about them very deeply. Locking pin back is 100% the way to go. I got a lot of like 500 of them on Amazon years ago for like $20.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
buy them in the parks. They're
Very,
very
they're very inexpensive. If you're in a bind and you're in a
But in a
pinch,
pinch, right.
get them. But yeah, if you can plan ahead and order those ahead, that'll save you a penny or two.
Yeah, and I can attest to the fact that they are fantastic because I have a jean jacket that has pins that haven't come off of them in almost 10 years. So,
Yes.
locking backs are great for literal permanency. So,
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So kind of going back to the pin bags, do keep in mind that some people like to keep their pin bags just as display for like, look how pretty my collection is, look how cool it looks, like, or like if they're bounding, like, look at all these pins that I have that match my bound outfit that I'm doing today. And then they may carry like something else that has their traders on it. So just ask, like Duck mentioned earlier, you've just got to ask like, hey, I see you've got a ton of pins. I would love to see what you have available to trade. And they may say, oh, anything you see here is available to trade. Or they may say, oh, let me grab my lanyard out, or, those types of things. So again, you just got to ask. I apologize to the people that get social anxiety because I feel that. However, if you want to trade, you just got to ask.
and again, people are generally nice about it. I've never had anybody that like bit my head off for asking, right? People may decline, right? Because they could just have it as like their collection on display, or like maybe they're just like all traded out for the day and they have everything that they wanted. I've totally had people decline. You say, okay, no problem, enjoy the rest of your park day, right? Like it's like truly I know there's like some nefarious actors, right? As there is in any hobby, and not everybody is nice, but there does seem to be like a specific core around the type of people who are drawn to pin trading as an activity. That generally they are on the kinder side, and even if they're not interested in engaging in that very moment, they will politely decline. So even if it is a little awkward for you to get into the habit of asking to pin trade, it's good social practice for everyone out there who wigs out at social interaction like myself. And which I know may be shocking from how much I love talking on this podcast. I am an anxious human. But yeah, no, it's people are generally pretty kind surrounding accepting or declining pin trading.
Yeah. And if you're really worried about it, then just stick to asking cast members.
Yeah.
Because
this won't decline.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like we mentioned, the pins that they have on them are likely given to them by management for trading, or they're working at a location that has a pin board for trading. So that's your best bet. I will also say that I am also an anxious person when it comes to that kind of thing, but it is also a really great teachable moment for kids to kind of teach them some of that social interaction, because in a day and age of screens and the internet, it's a great thing to like, okay, we're going to walk up here, ask them politely, may I please see your pins? And then you can look. And then when you're done, you need to say, thank you so much for your time, and then we can walk away. So just those little things, just my mom moment it's very helpful, because even my kids, you get excited and they went to walk away. And I was like, whoa, stop. Say thank you. Now we can walk away.
Yeah, no, so especially with how much there is constantly going on at the parks, right? Like it's a good moment to have kiddos or younger humans that are with you in general. Just take that moment to slow down and thank the people who are there making the magic, and thank people for their kind interaction. So totally agree, and I think that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A couple other ways that you will find people carrying pins around. You will find people that have gigantic binders full of pins. They're not super convenient to carry around in the parks. So you'll find those a lot at events, or you'll find those a lot at those kind of designated pin trading locations. So like that Epcot location, people bring their binders in and they just flop them all out on the tables for people to look through. So it really just depends, but typically you're not going to see a ton of those big kind of cumbersome binders in the parks, but those are really good for like organizing your sets at home and kind of seeing what you've got, or putting things by character or by collection, those types of things for binders. And then you can also just throw them in your bag, put them in a Ziploc. You know, you don't have to have something fancy to be able to pin trade. Like there's absolutely no rules when it comes to that. So whatever you've got that works is perfectly fine. And you may find people that that's what they do with their traders, right? So any pins that they're like, yep, these ones are good to trade. I don't need to keep them. They'll throw them in a bag, Ziploc them, and throw them in their parks bag to make them super easily accessible. And it is always smart if you're someone who is collecting and also trading to kind of have those a little bit separate. So that way it's not confusing whenever you go to actually do trades or look at pin boards and things like that. It will help your brain remember what you're doing, first of all, but it also will help anybody who's coming to look at your collection to trade know, like, okay, these are all available as traders. So, however you want to separate those, if it's a plastic bag, if it's a little, pin folio board or whatever you want to do with that, it is good to have those kind of separate in your stash of pins.
And it's so funny when you say because that's usually what we'll do. So I'll have, we'll each have like a couple on a lanyard to like indicate that we're interested in trading. And then it's very funny when you reach into the park bag and you're like, I have a couple more. And seeing especially a kiddo's face light up like, I have never seen so many pins in one place. Like you can just see like the wiring like malfunction there for a second. It's a lot of fun. And also like, I don't know, if somebody really wants the one that I have on my lanyard, of course, but like I also like giving people the variety. So
Right.
not mandatory by any means, but like you said, Jackie, good way to bring a lot of pins in at once without really having to worry about how am I gonna display 40 pins on a lanyard? You know what I mean? How am I gonna have all this? Plastic bag, totally sufficient.
Okay, so once we get our pins into the park and we figure out where we're going to trade, let's talk about some kind of etiquette rules, suggestions from Mom Street when it comes to pin trading.
So Disney does list on their website some official rules, and they're common sense rules, and they feed well into the etiquette conversation. So we're gonna go through those, and then as any sidebars come up, we'll talk through that too. So the first rule, of course, as I said up top earlier, ask. Please, 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 just ask. Whether it's a cast member, whether it's a guest, whether it's on a board, before you start reaching your little fingies out to grab the pin that you want, pretty please, always ask, may I pin trade? Is that pin available for trade? Some version thereof.
Can I see your pins? Can I look at your pins? Yep. And that's one of those things that with your littles, you're going to have to prompt them because especially if you've got, little elementary age, even my kids, being 6 and 8, it's like, no, we got to ask. We can't just go up and go, I want this one and snatch it. That's not how that works. First of all, body, bubbles, space. Do not invade someone's space. Do not reach for their pins. Even if they say yes, they may hand it to you if it is on their person.
Yep.
Do not reach and grab.
With lanyards in sensitive areas.
Just grab it.
Yeah, like please don't. Like cast members often carry the little felt things on their head.
And they're like belt buckles. Yep.
They will like kind of pull it off and show it to you, or they may like present it, right? Like there's going to be some sort of step that is taken. Do not body bubble, perfect way to describe it. Do not invade somebody's personal space.
Nope. And even once you have decided which one you want, if it is on somebody's body, please use your words. I would love to trade you for that Mickey pin right there. And they can present it to you. You can do a switcheroo. All is well in the world.
Congratulations, you've pin traded respectfully. And I love that, Eric. Yeah. Okay, so I know we talked about this earlier, and I just want to reemphasize it again. Please only trade official Disney pins. There are special cases that Disney outlines for like affiliate pins, right? If it's a company that Disney owns, like ESPN, ABC, something in that family, that is also a-okay to trade, but it must be an official pin. Can't trade knowingly trade a scrapper, and which we'll talk again about scrappers in just a second. I know we keep saying like teeing it up like it's this big topic of conversation, but and also please understand that it is at the cast member's discretion if you are trading on a board to decline the trade. I mean, it's also at if you're doing peer-to-peer trading, but I'm really talking more about like the cast member focused trading for this. It is at their discretion if they are going to decline it. Like we said, some parks have very high standards. Some parks do not. Sometimes cast member will just use their discretion and be like, hey, it's a child. I'm not going to say no to them over the scrapper pin, right? Like they clearly want this Epcot pin or the Stitch pin or whatever. I'll take it. But understand that it is up to them to be able to say yes or no, even if it's on the boards.
Yeah. And keep in mind too that things like Star Wars pins, Marvel pins, any of those umbrella companies, you'll find those pins all over the parks in sets and mystery packs for sale. So a good rule of thumb is if you're concerned about like, oh, this is I've seen people talk about like Loungefly pins. Well, if it's a Disney Loungefly and it's branded Disney, then you're good to go. So, you just keep an eye out for what's for sale in those different, the different places. And if you see it, then you know that you're good to go.
Exactly. And a good rule of thumb, especially for like those Loungefly pins, for our video guests, our video folks, I have a pin that I'm going to show you, but I'll just describe it for the audio folks. So I have it's a Tiana's Place pin. It is a Loungefly pin that I had gotten in a mystery box. I purchased it from Box Lunch. But when you flip it around, the thing that really matters to pay attention to is here on the bottom. It's not super clear. There we go. But you have that copyright symbol and Disney. That is like going to be your best bet of, is this something that I can trade in the park? If it has the copyright Disney on the back, you are generally good to go, right? Because it can be any of those properties, like we said. It could be ESPN, it could be a Marvel, it could be a Star Wars, it could be one of the princesses, but it come from Box Lunch, right? Like
Right. So
exactly.
like this is a C3PO pen that we got. I mean, we bought it in a mystery pack at Disney, but if you look on the back side, it's really tiny. But it's got not only the Star Wars logo, but if you look right underneath, it's got that copyright Disney. So even though it's Star Wars and it's got the Star Wars name on it, it's still copyright Disney, and that's what you want to look for, because not all Loungefly, Disney doesn't own Loungefly. Loungefly doesn't only work with Disney, and they do have other pins that they put out that are not Disney affiliated. So you always going to make sure that even if it is a Loungefly pin or a Marvel pin or something like that, you want to make sure that it has that Disney on it.
Yeah, 100%. That is like an easy, surefire way to be like, do I think this can be tradable? It's got the copyright Disney. I'm good to go.
Yes.
So a couple other official rules for pin trading as Disney has put out. Please only trade one pin at a time. It can get really hectic when you're like, I know it's like super exciting and you're like, I don't want somebody to get this one pin that I need for my collection before somebody else can get it, but also I see a second one that I need, right? Like, I totally understand. There's a lot going on. If as an adult it's overstimulating, I can only imagine how exciting it is for children, right? Like, there's a lot going on. So I think it is a good opportunity to remind both the small children in your care and yourself as an adult, one pin at a time. It is largely for safety. We don't need anyone getting overly excited and poking themselves with it or anything like that. So please trade one pin at a time. Now, as far as again, like on the topic of eligibility for trading, right? Like we said, as long as it's official Disney, but also please make sure your pins are in good condition, right? If you wouldn't want to receive it, please don't put it on the board. It is again, just like a general etiquette, general rule of thumb. If you don't want it in your collection because it is messed up, it got run over by the tram in the parking lot, right? Like, you don't want it, then do not put it on the board for somebody else to unknowingly take.
Yeah, especially you'll find there are quite a few pins out in circulation that have like moving parts, things that slide side to side or up and down. If any that's broken or doesn't function, be a kind individual, be a kind human. Like Duck said, if you wouldn't want to receive it, don't offer it for a trade.
Right. There is, by the official Disney rules, a limit of 2 pins per cast member / board per day. Some days they are super strict about it. Some days they are not. Again, it's kind of up to the discretion of the cast member, and they are going to read the situation and who is participating in that trade to the best of their ability. If it's something that, like, it's happened to me once, right? Like, they happen to have I think it was 3 pins, 3 of those Epcot pins that I needed, and there was nobody else, like, in line, like, I wasn't taking a trading opportunity from somebody, and the cast member was generous enough to allow me to trade a 3rd pin from that board for the day, right? There's a lot of understanding, but again, it's up to the cast member's discretion for how strictly they're going to enforce that rule. So Disney does have the blanket rule of 2 pins per individual cast member or per individual board per day.
Yeah, and I think the thing to remember about that is it technically is per day. So, like, yes, the boards can change throughout the day and you may see other pins pop up. Just be respectful of those around you, be respectful of the cast members, and just keep that in mind that that is the rule that Disney governs their pin trading by.
Right. And it's to give folks an opportunity, right? If you are spending all day hanging out in Cava in the Mexico Pavilion and they have a pin board, it's not very fair for you to be able to just like snipe all the super cool pins off of that board when maybe there's a kiddo who's just passing through to go see, hang out on 3 cabs for a little bit and they only get to pass through once, right? So that's why that rule is enforced, is just to make sure that everybody gets an equal and fair chance at the cool pins that can pop up throughout the day.
Yeah.
Now, this one may come as a shock to people, but you cannot exchange pins for monetary gain within the pin trading.
Why not, Duck?
Well, see, it can get ugly real quick. I don't know if you've just noticed behavior recently, but once money gets involved, it gets weird.
Yeah.
This is technically for the officially sanctioned, like, in-park trading. They do not forbid secondhand selling, right? So, like, those places that we mentioned, those marketplaces, Disney Pins for You, Disney Pins Vlog, even trusted sellers on things like eBay. Again, be very careful on those platforms. That is not forbidden, but if you are trading with a cast member, you can't be like, I'm going to give you this pin and you're going to give me a $20 Disney gift card, right? Like, that is not a thing that Disney permits. So anything that's like a gift card, I'm going to trade you this pin for sunglasses, a voucher of any kind. I've seen somebody try to bribe their way into a lightning lane before with pins. Like, I've seen some unruly behavior. So, no, there is nothing to gain from pin trading except for another pin. That is the official Disney stance on that.
Now, also, I will just insert this in here because there's lots of conversation on the internet about resellers. Do keep in mind that if you are someone that is planning to purchase pins to resell, again, Disney does not have specifics on that. However, they do have specifics on using your annual pass discount or any other discount to get a pin and then turn around and sell it for profit. That is not allowed. Disney will not let you profit off of their name and off of their merchandise. So keep that in mind. There's something to be said for, oh, I collected this collection, I never finished it, I'm not interested in hanging on to it anymore. Or I'm going to go get this limited edition pin, pay for it with my AP discount, and then mark up the price to make money off of it.
Right.
Big difference between the two. So just for those listening, keep that in mind.
I'm going to keep my comments about flippers to myself. As it's
Same.
in a great number of collecting hobbies. I have thoughts and feelings, and I completely agree. There's a large distinction between this is just an item that I don't want anymore, or I bought it and it kind of doesn't fit into my collection, and I'm just going to sell it at, like, a reasonable amount. I just want my what I paid back, or what I paid plus $5 for gas, or I want to cover a churro with it, right? There's a difference between that. And I camped here for 48 hours and punched Mickey Mouse in the face to be able to get this pin, right? Like, huge difference between those two situations. And that's my thoughts on that.
Yes.
Which actually brings us pretty good into our next point, which is, it's not an official Disney rule, but please be a good pin trading citizen, right? Except when somebody declines, a cast member may decline to trade for whatever reason, right? Maybe they're just like sprinting to go handle their situation. They cannot stop at that very moment. They may decline. Maybe they see that you have a pin that is not within the confines of what is acceptable for a trade while on property. Maybe people don't want to part with their pins. All of that is okay, right? Like, truly just use like common sense, good human interactions when entering into this like pin trading agreement, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, if someone says no, that's a full sentence. So
100%.
listen to them.
Yeah.
If they say, I'm not interested, or, if you both ask to see each other's pins and you find something and they're like, you don't really have anything I want. I'm so sorry, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out
Yep. That's
and
exactly right. You
go
say, "Have a
on
great
your
park
merry
day."
way.
That's it.
Yep.
You say, have a great park day, and then you just continue on and get yourself a churro, right? Like, that is, we just move on. And,
Yeah. They do not
yeah,
owe you a trade. That's not
yeah,
how the world works. So
100%.
keep that in mind. And you need to prompt your kids for that too. Your kids need to understand that they are likely going to be trading with potentially with other kids, but likely with grown-ups who have invested a lot of money into this, especially if they're just starting. That was a conversation I had with my kids. Like, hey, listen,
Invested a lot of money.
as Duck
Me.
looks at their collections behind them.
But slowly moving the pins off the table. Who spent a lot of money? Not me.
But that was a conversation I had with my kiddos. Like, hey, first of all, it's okay to not see something that you want, even if you're looking at boards that from the cast members or looking at lanyards. Like, hey, can I see your pins? Doesn't mean you're locked into a trade. And the same way that if someone asks to see yours and you say yes, doesn't mean you're locked into a trade. And that's a conversation that you need to have because that is just the way that the world of pin trading works when it comes to collectibles. So kind of prompting your kiddos and remembering yourself that like just because we're checking each other's stuff out doesn't mean that we're locked into a trade.
100%.
All right. So I think that gives us a good basis on the etiquette and the rules. Again, be a kind person, be a kind human. But let's talk about the scrappers because
The big bad of the
we've been
episode.
hinting at it this whole time. Let's talk about scrapper pins, what that means, what are we looking for? Jess, help us out.
Will do. So the term scrapper came about because the first kind of illegitimate like scrapper pins as they were that started entering the pin trading sphere were literally pins that were like scrapped from the official factories that were making the pins. So essentially they didn't pass the quality control and they were put off to the side to be discarded, melted down into other pins, what have you. But that didn't happen with these. And they were kind of backdoored out of the factory and
A
sold.
heist ensued.
Right.
It was Mission Impossible, but with pins.
I just thought it was that dramatic, but I mean, maybe Tom Cruise like
Could've
suspended
been.
from the ceiling. I don't know.
You never know. You weren't there, Jess.
That is true. I was there, and you never know what Tom Cruise is doing. So,
At any given moment, that man is up to something. I just know it.
yep. So yeah, so those pins did not get thrown out or recycled as they were supposed to, and then they typically end up online on eBay in large lots, like Duck said, where they're selling them for like 1,000 pins for like $3. And people kind of unknowingly purchase these pins, is I think really how it initially started. They just didn't realize what it was, got a bunch of these pins, started trading them around in the parks, and then now they are just kind of in circulation in the parks. It's honestly, if you were going to go in and trade on cast member boards, lanyards, what have you, it is like just something to kind of expect that you might most likely get a fake pin because they have kind of very widely been circulated, and that is a lot of what is in the parks.
Let's be clear. You will end up with a fake pin
Right,
at some
at
point.
some point.
In
It's
this
just
trading endeavor.
is what it is.
There are so many out there. They continue to make them, right? It's not like it was a select lot and then we fixed it. Jess will talk more about it, but like
Mhm.
this just simply is a fact of the collecting hobby. It is.
Yeah, and it's been a thing in pin collecting for so long, and the people that start into pin collecting don't realize that
Yeah.
that's even a thing until they're
Right.
too far into it. So it's really hard to kind of get ahead of the ball on that one.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then, from there, some of the molds to make the pins actually ended up getting stolen or copied, and then people started producing cheaper, lower quality pins that were replicas of the exact pins that were being sold in the parks or limited edition pins and things like that.
This happens a lot with the hidden Mickey pins.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that series, which is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's like a character, and then somewhere on that little pin of the character, there's a little Mickey somewhere on there. I'm trying to see if I have one right in front of me. I don't know if you do to show our visual audience. Perfect.
Yeah,
That's
perfect.
exactly right.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
And
that's
the
right.
scrapper. I had that.
And it is.
And it's a
We'll talk
scrapper.
about
Yes.
and we'll talk about more, but that is
But
the
it's
series
got
for
this
visual folks.
this little
It
tiny
is.
silver Mickey head on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so for our audio only folks, that's exactly right. Somewhere in the pin's design, there's just a tiny little silver, or usually they're silver or red, like some way to stand out. Just a little Mickey head, right? Like it's just a fun little cute thing, but Disney mass produced them and then seemingly like lost control of the factory, and then the molds got stolen. They get stolen for almost all of these, and they are the most commonly faked series of pins, and they continue to be made. It's still a series that Disney sells. They'll like switch up the characters that are available. They are like also on the cheaper end of Disney pins themselves.
Right.
So they just end up all over the place, and it's just a very easily faked series of pins.
Mm-hmm. So how do we spot a scrapper pin? How do I know that my pin is fake? Sometimes it is really hard to determine if the pin is a scrapper or if it's just kind of a low quality pin that somehow made it through the quality controls. We have literally purchased pins from the parks that look like they would have been like pulled them out of a mystery box, and it looks like a fake pin. There are imperfections in the enamel design. There are, issues with the Mickey waffling on the back. The Mickey waffling, it's like the little Mickey heads that are on the backs of the pins. That is the most common nowadays for pins that are being sold in the parks. But some older pins didn't have that. They didn't introduce that until a few years ago. So there's still pins that are official that don't have that. A lot of these scrapper pins do have the copyright Disney on the back, especially the ones that are made from the molds of, that were kind of stolen from factories, right? So a lot of them do have aspects that can seem a little bit legit. But some pretty good indicators and signs that the pin that you have is a scrapper is if it's made of a thinner, kind of poorer quality metal than the official pins. So typically the official Disney pins will be like a super thick, super like sturdy, um, you know, metal material. Something else to look for is having the unclear writing or Mickey waffle patterns on the back. Um, I wish there was a good example of this, or do you have an example of the Mickey waffling?
Yeah, so I do have an example of the Mickey waffling. So again, sorry for our visual folks, but as we were describing earlier, the Mickey waffling is a stamping of a Mickey pattern on the back of the pins. And here I have one. Don't I have one of the legit? You could just open that one. Oh yeah, you're good. So this is one that we're fairly sure is a scrapper. It's really hard to see visually. And for folks who are listening or even like doing video, it's a good call for you to go look up photos, because there's bajillions of them on the internet, and they're very clear at pointing out what is and is not good waffling and good
Mhm.
edging and good coloring for these pins. So we're describing them to you here, and if you can see the video, we're going to show you as best as we can. But truly, like, there are some fantastic resources out there in regards to helping you identify scrapper pins.
Yeah, so this is a good example of a real pin. So this is a Halloween pin from a couple years ago with Stitch or Mochi dressed up as Stitch. On the back, there is the waffling pattern. Everything is evenly spaced. The writing is all neat, evenly spaced. It might be tiny, but it is still legible. A lot of the times it'll be very hard to read these pins on the back to see the dates, the names. Things might be spelled wrong, or like the letters might be very far like spaced out on the backs of these pins that are fake. So those are just kind of some telltale things to look for on the backs of the pins. On the front of the pins, the enamel. Most official Disney pins, there are a few exceptions to this, but most of them are made with this kind of harder enamel, so it has kind of like a matte finish to it. But then when you have a scrapper pin, a lot of those are made with a softer enamel, so sometimes you'll see little like divots in it, or little like bubbling on the top. So that's kind of a good way to tell if it has that like shinier finish to it. Too, you can kind of see it
So
reflecting if you can see the pin.
the one that
Up.
the one that I've got is a mermaid pin, but you can see if I can catch the light, you can tell how kind of shiny that is on the front. This one also you can really feel the ridges, and I know that's something that we'll talk about here, but like this one is very much clearly a scrapper. But again, my daughter was like, "Oh, that's one of Ariel's sisters. I want that pin." Cool kid, go for
Yeah.
it.
And that's what matters, right? Like this pin that I was showing you as an example is an Epcot pin, and there was just no way I wasn't going to have it in my collection. Like, I do not care if it's fake, right? Like, it's not fake in the sense that it's not a real object for you to add to the collection, right? Like, I completely understand and respect pin traders who have a hardline stance of I do not want scrappers in my collection. That is totally cool. That is how you choose to collect, and that is 100% acceptable. I choose to collect the designs that I like, and as in my opinion, for my collection, as long as I'm not purchasing it and directly supporting the people who have stolen these molds or who are faking it, like I'm not directly contributing to that economy. I just picked
Right.
this off of a pin board because I liked the design and it's going to stay in my collection, right? I'm not going to put this back out into the world. So an unsuspecting kid or even an unsuspecting adult who's new to the pin trading world is going to end up with this. This stays with me on my pin board at home.
Right.
And that's like my comfort zone for trading. So
Sometimes what I'll do if I end up with a pin that is probably a scrapper, but not something that I want in my collection anymore, if I'm doing like an online trade with somebody, I'll like throw it in there as like a little extra and write a note, like probably fake, but it fits with, what you have or your collection or what you were looking for. So like my gift to you, here you go.
yeah,
And then, they know it's not a real pin. It's not something that they can go back and trade, but it's just something a little extra. Thought of you, this reminded me of your collection. So I thought it, might have a better home with you.
yeah, absolutely. And we used to sell a lot of stuff on eBay, right? Like just like, pops and stuff like that. Not flipper stuff, let me be clear. We don't do flipping. That's not our vibe here, right? So it was just a lot of stuff that like we had amassed over the years and like truly when we were moving, like we just could not fit everything into a condo that we each individually fit in our parents' whole houses, right? Like it was not happening. So a lot of like as we were downsizing the collections, like we also did that with pins. Like, we would sell like, I don't know, like a BB-8 um Funko Pop for $5 on eBay and I'd throw a scrapper pin in there too, right? Because like whatever, like it's a BB-8 pin, like it doesn't matter, enjoy it. It's just something extra and it's something that you clearly like, right? So in the same vein, like I think that's a really good suggestion for uses for scrapper pins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, one other suggestion is that it goes really great to have them in if you have children that are of age to be trusted with slightly pointy objects. Let me put that disclaimer there. Put them in like goodie bags for birthday parties and stuff. Like those are always a big hit. So there are times and places for you to give out those pins, just maybe not an official Disney pin trading capacity.
Some people who are crafty kind of use them as like embellishments on crafts.
So yeah.
I've seen that there's like tutorials online where people use, their scrapper pins for different things. So like there's all kinds of ways to use them and get them out of circulation in the parks, but also still get to enjoy them and appreciate them, for having the fun characters that you enjoy on them. If you are, kind of unsure, I think Duck kind of touched on this before, if a pin is fake or not, you can always Google it. There are definitely like the hidden Mickeys pins that are very commonly faked. So it is kind of easy to tell from a quick Google search if, there's a high probability of this pin being faked. People will say what to look out for. Sometimes there are certain pins that have a very specific thing to look for. Like there was a collection of limited edition pins. Those pins aren't as widely traded in the parks, but sometimes in like the Facebook groups or at events. The Windows of Magic pins. So these were the Disney princesses. On like a stained glass window kind of design, and they were very popular, very sought after pins. They are making similar window series even to this day, and they're still very popular. So they were very widely faked.
The villains ones were the best. That's my opinion. The Horned King one went so hard. Anyway.
Well, they have attractions ones this year, and I can't get my hands on them to save my life because they're so popular. But the Windows of Magic and the Windows of Evil ones too, they were all very widely faked. And the way to kind of tell if they were real was counting the Mickey heads across the back of the pin. So if there was a certain number, you knew it was real. If there was any more or any less, you knew that that was a scrapper version of the pin. So like some pins have things like that that are very specific. A Google search will tell you. There are a lot of, people on YouTube that do, in-depth videos about how to spot scrappers and things like that. So just things to be aware of when you're going on your trips to the parks or trading at an event. Again, most people, at events and stuff know not to put those pins that they know are scrappers into their traders. But like we also said, there are some people who are not always the best actors in these situations. So know what to look for, know what your kind of stance is. If you really like a pin enough, is it worth overlooking that it might be fake? Like Duck's Epcot pin here, or are you, very set on, nope, I want only, authentic Disney pins in my collection. But it is something to just kind of expect when you're in the parks nowadays.
Well, and a couple different things with that too. There are Facebook groups that exist. Whether or not you want to go down the rabbit hole of asking a Facebook group if your pin is real or not, that is your discretion. Some groups are nicer than others. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. A really good bet if you're someone that's starting and you find one of these in-person events is to take some pins there and ask the people there. Like we mentioned, when people go to those events, they're typically really nice people. And they're like, if you go into it saying like, hey, I'm new to this. Can you help me look at these pins and tell me what I have? Like, I got these from a trusted site. I just want to double check. Or can you inform me? Or like, I know this is a scrapper. Can you help me figure out, like, show me what I need to know about it? Those types of things. Again, you never know. You may run into someone who doesn't want to take the time to help you, but chances are good, especially at those in-person events, that you're going to be able to find someone that is willing to help look at pins with you to make sure that you know what to look for and what you have or what you don't have.
Yeah, especially like you said, those local ones. I mean, it's just the people who are bothering to put on a local pin trading event in New Jersey or Canada, or you know what I mean? I see them. I saw one in North Dakota, right? Like, if you are taking the time to put this on, this is clearly your passion, and generally you're going to find people who want to help you, right? I mean, it's of course there's always bad apples, but far and away, if you are bothering to rent out a room in a Marriott in New Jersey in the dead of winter to trade Disney pins, you probably really care about the community.
Right.
Yes. Also very true. Also, I will just plug very briefly. You guys know that we are part of our good friend Kirk at Walrus Carp, his Discord. That is a great community that you can help that can help teach you about pins. We've got lots of people in that community, Duck and Jess included, that are on that Discord that can help you. So if you're like not sure where to go, but you need online help, come to our Discord and let us help you. We are a very inclusive, kind, friendly community over there. So if you need help with that, that is definitely a good place to go for help with. If you want to post photos of pins that you got or are curious about, we can help you out over there.
I just want to see your collection. Share your pin collection with me.
We want to see all of the pictures.
Please.
Yes.
Pet
Perfect.
pictures and pin pictures. That's what I want.
Pets and pins. I feel like you should start like a new like Instagram page that's just photos of your dog Ruby and photos of your pin collection.
Literally.
Just saying.
That's your favorite
Eating
thing.
the same collection.
That dog would somehow melt them down and make a knife. God love her. She is crafty. Okay, sorry.
I love that. That's okay. Anyway, back on track. But yes, ultimately, you have to decide if the pin is worth it or not. And if you've got kiddos that are trading, you do need to kind of coach them on that too, because they may willingly trade for a really cool character, but you have to also help them understand that, like, hey, this one is now permanently in our collection. We're not going to trade it back on the boards. We're not going to put it back out there for someone else to get. We know that it is not an authentic quote unquote pin, but you really like this character and that is great. So let's go put it on your keeper board. And that's where it's going to live forever. So that is a conversation that you probably need to coach your kids through, because that is something that I had to talk to my kiddos about too. It's like, hey, this is a really cool pin, but after we walk away, okay, this is not an authentic pin. So this one is one that goes on our keep pile. And they were like, okay, sure, Mom, whatever.
It helps that kiddos generally trade for characters that they really want anyway. So yeah, I think that can ease the conversation of, okay, this is yours forever, child.
Forever and ever. Okay, so let's talk about building that collection and what that looks like and kind of some of our suggestions and advice for how to build your collection. The first thing, and you've heard us already kind of allude to this on today's episode, is rule number one, collect what you love, right? So that's what pin trading is all about at the end of the day, is collecting the characters or the themes or the movies, the icons, the attractions, whatever it is that you love. What I do, because I'm fairly new to pin trading and I'm not looking to, collect entire giant mass amounts of pins because they're expensive and I don't have space for them. Um, as Duck and Jess both look at me like, "Oh, right. Okay."
Try not to feel attacked. No, it's okay. I totally
Yes,
understand.
but
That's probably the correct stance to be taking.
yes, because otherwise I'm not allowed. If I were to just say, "I'm gonna collect pins," I think my husband would not be happy about that. So,
So
what I do is I focus on like specific characters or a specific niche or a movie or whatever. So like for me is Stitch, because Stitch is one of my all-time favorite characters. And then like Winnie the Pooh is one of my like secondary ones that I will look for. I do also look for Duffy and Friends because I love Duffy and Friends. Peep the Shelly May ears that I'm wearing in today's episode. So those are kind of my lane that I stay in. However, I will trade for fun friends. Like this is my Chubby pin that I traded for. It was my very first pin trade that I made. And Chubby is just a character that I love. And this is the only pin that Chubby exists on as of right now. For those of you who don't know, Chubby is the little orange bird at the end of the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway attraction at Hollywood Studios and over in Toontown at Disneyland. And I just think he's super fun and he's a super original character to the parks, which I think is fun. So that was one that I was like, yes, this one's coming home with me. But generally speaking, I try to keep it niche just so I don't end up with an overwhelming amount of pins for what my personal preference is. Now, that being said, you are welcome to collect whatever you love. So if what you love is all things Disney or all things Marvel or all things Pixar, have at it, my friend.
Yep. Um, in the same vein as that, and this is truly how we started. We're making jokes about how large our collection is, but you also have to understand we've been collecting for like a decade now. Like we've been collecting
Right.
for actually probably over a decade, for years. I mean, our love of Disney pins predates to when we had finally had enough adult money to go start traveling to the parks, right? Like that was like a piece of the Disney parks that we could have. I have always collected them. My aunt actually started a small collection for me as a child because if you remember when you would buy those like special VHS tapes from the Disney store, right? Like when they were out of the Disney Vault, you would get lithographic prints and often they would also come with a pin. So what my aunt would do is she would buy for me and my sister, she would buy the prints and then she would buy 2 pins, right? So we each got the set of prints and we got a pin. So I have been collecting Disney pins quite literally since I was a child. Like it actually predates before like Disney pin trading being what Disney pin trading was or is currently. Yeah, I mean it's really special, right? Like my aunt has since passed on and it's just like a really nice memory. It was something that was really important to us. We were always a big Disney family, so like her going out of her way to get those items, like it's just really nice to have those things in my collection to like remind me of her. Especially since like some of the lithographs have like gotten destroyed over the years. I mean, right, like basements flood, like things happen unfortunately, but pins being what they are, they're like fairly indestructible unless you really, really try. So like it's just like a nice memory. So we have been collecting Disney pins forever. But we started somewhere too, right? So it is our best advice to start small and to ease your way into it, right? It can be very exciting, but it can be very overwhelming. The best place, especially if you know that you want to trade, right? Like that is your main thing is to get into the trading aspect of it. What we always recommend is start with a couple of mystery packs, right? You can get them in the parks fairly cheaply and even like at Hot Topic, right? Like, of course, prices for everything have gone up and it
Right.
is more expensive now than it has ever been. I mean, shockingly so, but still, like you can usually those mystery packs have like between 2 and 3 pins if you're doing like the Hot Topic or Box Lunch one, and then sometimes up to like 5 pins in a pack if you're doing the ones on Disney property, right? So those are a great place to start. Pick a theme that you like. So that way, if you end up with something for your collection, you're like, oh my God, that's great. Like the Disney princess ones are always a good one for you to
Right.
get because you probably statistically like at least one Disney princess that they'll have in that pack. And if you like it, you get to keep it. And it's not a horrible disappointment. But if you don't like it, then you have something to begin your trading journey. So that is like our general recommended place to start as you are building your trading collection.
Yeah, that's something we did with our kids. We did the little, and I should have looked up the official name, but it's like the little plushy characters where they took a lot of the little sidekicks and they made them into little plushies. So like in the one that we got, and we ended up keeping all of the ones that we got in that mystery set because the kids were like, "Those are so cute," and it was like we couldn't help it, but like we got 5 in that little set. And it was and it's super fun for kids too to like be able to open them and then they get to decide like, "Ooh, these are the ones that I got. Like, do I want to keep them? Do I not want to keep them?" So like we got Pumbaa, we got Pascal, we got Sebastian, we got Scrump, and then if I can get him off of the board, the last one that we got was Abu, which just like they're so stinking cute. And it was fun because it was a lot of different characters. We knew that in our one pack that we picked out, we weren't going to get duplicates, which is a very big part of the trading, is that people will open these mystery packs and get duplicates and then have to trade them away to try to find the ones that they want. And then it's a whole thing like we talked about before, which, Duck and Jess, I'm sure don't know anything about what that's like.
Not once have I bought mystery box after mystery box after mystery box trying to get the one that I wanted. That's never been an experience I've had.
Ever.
I don't have a borderline gambling problem. That's not why I open Pokemon packs on the internet.
Yeah, so the mystery packs are super fun, especially if you find a set where you're like, I'm happy with any of these. But also they can be fun if you're like hunting for a certain one that you want to, the thrill of the chase a little bit too with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, sort of in that same vein, right? Like, you buying the mystery boxes are a great way for you to start your trading collection. If you are interested in growing your collection, like your personal collection that you want to keep with you, frankly, purchasing the specific pins directly is usually a good way to kind of get that started, right? Because then you can see, like, oh, this is a character that I do enjoy collecting, or this is a character that maybe I don't enjoy collecting, right? So if you enjoy collecting them, then you can start hunting them out as you go into the parks or events to pin trade. And if it turns out that, like, this isn't really a character that's for me, like, I don't really like the designs that they have for the pins that are coming out, like, you can then just add them to the trading pile, right? And something that's also important to know if you are interested in purchasing pins directly, pins release quite literally weekly at Disney. It is Tuesday mornings. So if you see a line in like Adventureland out to all the way to the front gate, all the way back to Main Street, it's almost certainly a pin drop, right? Like people are fanatical about pins. And again, I'm not gonna touch on flippers. That's not a conversation we're having here, not in public anyway. My thoughts are fairly well established. But yeah, so I mean, there is lots of, and they also will release online on Tuesday mornings usually. So if that's something that you're interested in, sometimes they are limited edition and they are only available in the parks, but sometimes they are just released online to the public if they're an open edition situation. So I do recommend that if you are looking to start building your personal collection, buying directly is a good way to do it. But if you're interested in the trading aspect of it, then a mystery box is usually the way to go. So that way you have some trade fodder.
Yeah, and you'll see that those prices will vary too, so keep an eye on that if you're someone that's trying to do it more of an inexpensive route, if you can. I mean, pins are expensive regardless. Some of those packs, like those mystery packs that have 3 or 5 in them, tend to be a little bit more cost effective per pin. But some of those limited edition pins, some of the big ones that they've had recently where the pins are physically big, go upwards of even at market price, not at resale price, are $100, $125. So it can be very expensive depending on what it is that you're looking for. So you've really got to keep in mind your budget and what you're looking for and the purpose of it, right? If you're just looking for pins to purchase to trade, like Duck mentioned earlier, you don't want to go for those big, big, big pins. Now, if you're looking to add them to your collection to keep, different story.
So now that we've talked about your trading and you're collecting, what do you actually do once you physically transport the pins home and you've decided which ones are joining your collection, right? Like, what do you actually do with them? You stick them in a box. No, just kidding.
Put them away forever to never enjoy them and never look at them.
Yeah, how dare you have those pins and want to enjoy them? That is foolish. You are there for one reason and one reason only, and that is to collect every Epcot pin ever made. No, so
I feel like that's speaking from a deep place inside of Duck.
Yeah.
How dare you? Me and my little faceless Epcot Mickey, how dare you? But no, so the most common way to display them at home is some form or fashion of corkboard, right? Like the way that we display them generally is we bought them on like Amazon. They were like $20 for a pack of 3. They're like these little hexagons, and we just stuck them to the wall with command tape, and then you just put your pins in there, and you can organize them how you want, right? Like I routinely reorganize them. So sometimes and it just comes with like when you add more to the collection, right? So like I had a board that was all stitch, and then I had enough stitch to fill 4 boards. So then what I started doing was, instead of doing it by character, I then started kind of doing it by like theme, right? So like I had a bunch of stitch like in the sand, or if it was Stitch with Lilo or whatever it was, right? Like I also collect like movie opening day pins, right? So I have a whole bunch of those. So then I have a Stitch, Lilo and Stitch opening day pin, and that got put with like my Narnia opening day pins, right? So like however you want to display them and you want to organize them is very personal, and like it's totally fine to change it over time. And in fact, that's one of the ways that like I think we enjoy our pins most is like when we expand the collection and we're like, actually, this might be a fun new way to organize them, right? Like it's a very low stakes thing to do in your daily life. You know what I mean? Like there is nothing less low stakes than reorganizing a pin board, but like, you know, when you're going through it, it makes you feel kind of good to have a new way to display like this thing that brings you happiness, right? So
Have a little control over the environment that you're in.
Exactly.
and we call this controlling the things that I can when things feel out of control.
Amen.
So yeah, so you know what I mean? So like that is how we will display it at home, is generally just like a corkboard. We have the small ones. They sell huge ones. People will sell on Etsy like shaped ones. I see people do that all the time. So like there was somebody that I knew that had like a very extensive Goofy collection and had like a 4-foot tall Goofy pin board made. And it was like a Goofy shape, right? You know what I mean?
Amazing.
It was like his silhouette. So like there is 1,010 ways for you to choose to display it at home. Pin boards are the most logical, right? Like we just have them up in the office, or you know, like when we lived at our parents' houses, like we had them in the bedroom, you know, our bedrooms or whatever, because that was our space. But you know, however you want to have that set up, that's the easiest way. There's also like banners for you to display, right? Like people on Etsy will make themed banners. That's a super common thing. There's cases. I actually bought for myself for like the special pins that I have that I like want to make sure that I keep separate. It's almost like a pin folio situation. It's like a case that has like a bunch of fabric sheets in it, for lack of a better term, that has zip opens in the middle, so I can store like the backing cards for them, but then I can still have them on some form of display, right? Like it's not like I have them out on a coffee table, but like if I need to bring them out to look for something or whatever it is, or like I'm reorganizing and I have decided one gets upgraded to the special folio, like, you know what I mean? One's worthy of being migrated. So there's like 110 ways that you can do it.
Yeah.
Corkboards being the most common. And then some people have like little photo albums. I actually think this is a very cute idea. If I may make a suggestion to folks out there. We try to get like a special pin per trip. You know, whether it's for Food and Wine or, you know, something like that. And people will put like in a photo album a photo of the trip and then stick the pin with the photo of that trip.
Cute.
And I think that's something that we're going to end up doing. And I think it's just like a very sweet idea, and it helps keep things organized and helps you, you know, remember that particular trip and why that pin was special.
Yeah.
Yeah, also Disney themselves have started making a lot of like different pin boards and different ways to like display your pins. I've seen pin boards in like Hot Topic and Box Lunch that are like Stitch shaped or Mickey or whatever, right? So as pin trading and pins themselves have gotten more popular, like other places are making like different ways to display them as well. So you can check out places like that too.
Yeah, and something that we've done is actually do some like shadow boxes that we've put on the wall, and we will combine things like our like celebrating buttons that we get in the parks with like pins and things like that. So that's another option too. A lot of those will have, it's not necessarily a cork board backing, but it's like a, I don't even know what you call it. It's like a cardboard with some like felty fabric on it,
Yeah.
kind of that they have that you can push the pins through. But you just, yeah, you got to make sure you give yourself enough space to have the back or to push them through whatever it is that you're going to be utilizing. Um, and you do have to be careful of that with some of the Amazon cork boards too, because we have a similar set that we've bought, like just sets of those, 5 like hexagon little cork boards. Well, some of them, if you push the pin through too far, it'll come out through the other end. So just fair warning, make sure that whatever you're using,
Heads up to renters, you might not get your deposit back.
right? So just keep that in mind. But yeah, definitely a lot of really fun ways to display those if that's what you choose to do. And I think ultimately you just have to decide, is your collection, do you want it to be on display so that it can be viewed somewhere in your house? Do you want to keep it in more of like a binder that you can flip through? There's lots of different ways that you can do collections with that. So you just really have to decide what it is that how it is that you want to have that stored at your disposal so you can look through it as you choose. Cool. All right. I think in a nutshell, sort of, that's pin trading. Hopefully, we gave you some good ideas, some information. We didn't go into types of pins and what kinds of mystery packs are out there and all that kind of stuff, because here's the deal with that. It changes so frequently and they cycle through so often what pins they have available. So it's really hard for us to say, well, they usually always have these kinds of pins, because you just never know what you're going to find. So really truly going to the parks and just looking around and looking through what the different stores have, and different shops will have different pins. And, we didn't get into all of that because it's just too much to speculate. And 2 weeks from now, it could be all different from what we're giving you now. So we tried our best to give you the basics, make sure you know what you're getting into when it comes to pin trading, and hopefully give you something to use going forward to help you enjoy your pin experience at the Disney parks. That being said, let's briefly talk about, before we wrap up, what we are headed to next. So our next episode here on Mom Street will be another hub episode. We will be back with our good friend Stevie for our next episode. Not sure on the topic of that. We're all kind of in this realm of like spooky season has started and we're almost to the holidays, and next year feels like it's creeping up on us. So we're trying to figure out what we're doing over here at Mom Street. But Stevie will be with us for our next episode. And speaking of what in the world we're doing here at Mom Street, we do have a new offering that we are kind of just in the beginning stages of. And that is something that we felt would be beneficial to our community, and that is a Patreon account. So if you guys are familiar with Patreon, it's kind of another one of those websites where it's kind of like a little clubhouse for your community and people that you want to connect with. So the goal is eventually to have that Patreon be replace what are our current subscribers on our TikTok account. TikTok has made some changes recently with their subscription policy. And we're not super thrilled about it, if we're being completely candid. Candid. Thank you. That word was hard. Sorry. If we're being completely candid. So we are going to be shifting to more of a Patreon style. We are in the very infant stages of our Patreon account. But you can find that link in our show description if you want to check it out. The main thing that we're going to have over there currently is the unedited versions of our podcast episodes are going to live over there. So we've got some friends that want the chaos that ensues when we do our live recordings. So some of that, unfortunately, for time and content, has to get edited out of our podcast episodes. But if you are someone that wants all of the in-betweens and the chaoses and Duck having to answer the phone when their sister calls and whatever panic happens,
and
you
it's
know,
nothing.
yeah. So currently over there already is the extended version of our 100th anniversary that we just recorded last episode. So that already exists over there. So if you want the chaos and the fun and the extended trivia, really is the primary thing from that episode. Unfortunately, we did a ton of trivia with our good friend Kate, aka the Disney sister, and we were so happy she was back and doing trivia with us. But for time's sake, I had to cut some of that out when I edited because it was a lot. While we enjoyed it in live person, wasn't going to be quite as fun for our listeners to hear on the re-listen. But that does exist on our Patreon now, so you can find that at patreon.com/momstreetusa. So very easy to find over there. Everything is free content over there for now until we kind of figure out what we want to do with that. So please join us over there if you want some of that content, and eventually some exclusive content will live over there, and we'll keep you guys posted once we kind of wrap our brains around what that's going to look like. But we would love to have you guys join us over there. So I think that is the end of our chat for today. Duck and Jess, do you guys have any final thoughts about pin trading or anything that we talked about today?
I don't think there's anything on pin trading that we missed. No.
Yeah.
I think I hope this was helpful because I know pin trading can be daunting for a lot of people, right? Like
Yeah.
it seems like it's such like a well-established activity. People feel intimidated participating. People are not sure how other people are going to react, or like even the etiquette of asking like how to trade, right? Like, so I hope that this kind of demystified that a little bit for folks. I hope folks feel more comfortable entering the hobby. And like, if you have any questions about pin trading that were not covered here, ask us in the Discord. You can message any of us either on the Mom Street account or directly on our account here, Beanie Duck. Like, that is all totally fine. We are very happy to answer any questions that we can. And if we do not know the answers, we can probably point you to somebody who is even more of a pin-based expert than we are. So
Yeah.
I hope that demystified things a little bit.
Yeah. So most importantly, just have fun with it, right? It's supposed to be fun. You're collecting things that you love that represent a movie you love or a character you love, right? So just like making sure you're having fun is, I think, like the most important priority.
Agreed.
I love that. So fun. Well, thank you guys all so much for joining us for this episode of Mom Street USA. As always, like we just mentioned, if you need help with pin trading or anything else, you can always reach us momstreetusa@gmail.com or on several of our social media platforms or on our new Patreon account that we just talked about or on the Discord channel. So lots of ways that you can reach us and we will be able to get back to you over there. But thank you all so much for joining us for this Pin Trading 101, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Mom Street USA. Bye, everyone.
Bye.